4,000 years ago, the most powerful kingdom on earth sat in the northeast corner of Africa, bordered by Sudan to the south, Libya to the west, the Red Sea to the east. Its name was Egypt, and inside its palace, a boy was growing up who would change the world. His name was Moses, and almost everything you've been told about him leaves out the most important part. He was African. The Egyptian Empire stretched from modern-day Sudan all the way north to Syria. Its army, the most feared in the world. Its pharaohs, considered living gods. Its cities, the greatest engineering achievements in human history. But inside this empire, there was a people who were not free. The Israelites, a people who came to Egypt as guests during a famine and stayed and multiplied until Pharaoh looked at them and saw not guests, but a threat. Exodus chapter 1, verses 8 to 10. A new king came to power in Egypt who did not know Joseph. "Look," he said to his people, "the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country." Fear dressed up as strategy, power looking for a reason. First came forced labor, brutal, endless, crushing. Exodus 1:13. The Egyptians worked them ruthlessly. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied. So Pharaoh gave a new order, the most brutal thing a ruler can command.
"This is my decree, and you will obey. Throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River."
Not enslaved, not imprisoned, drowned, every son, every newborn, into the river. A Hebrew woman named Jochebed gave birth to a boy. Exodus 2:2. She saw that he was a fine child, and she hid him for 3 months. 3 months of hiding a newborn, 3 months of silencing his cries every time soldiers passed, 3 months of choosing hope over terror, until she could hide him no longer. Exodus 2:3. When she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket and coated it with tar and pitch, the same materials Egyptian engineers used to waterproof their greatest structures. A mother used to waterproof her son's only chance at survival. She placed him inside. She placed the basket among the reeds at the edge of the Nile, and she walked away. Her name was Jochebed. We learn that in Exodus 6:20. But here in chapter 2, she is simply called a mother. His sister stayed behind, hidden in the reeds, watching, waiting. Pharaoh's daughter came to the Nile to bathe. She saw the basket. She sent her servant to get it. She opened it, and the baby cried. She felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. She knew. She knew exactly what this child was. She knew her own father's decree. She knew what she was supposed to do, and she did the opposite. The daughter of the man who ordered every Hebrew boy thrown into the Nile pulled one Hebrew boy out of the Nile. Right there, in that moment, the story of the world changed. And Miriam, still watching from the reeds, stepped forward. "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" The princess said yes. Miriam went and got Jochebed, the baby's own mother. Pharaoh's daughter paid a Hebrew slave woman to nurse her own son. She named him Moses, which means drawn out of the water. In Hebrew, in Egyptian. The meaning is the same: drawn out, saved, chosen. Moses grew up in the palace of Pharaoh. Acts 7:22 tells us, and this detail is extraordinary, Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in speech and action. All the wisdom of the Egyptians. In 1526 BC, Egyptian wisdom was the most advanced knowledge system on earth. Architecture, mathematics, medicine, law, astronomy, engineering. Moses learned all of it. He was Egyptian royalty. He spoke like an Egyptian. He dressed like an Egyptian. He ate at the table of the most powerful man in the world. But he was not Egyptian, and somewhere, in the palace that had saved him, he knew it. One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. 4 words that carry everything. He had eaten at Pharaoh's table. He had been educated by the greatest minds in Africa. He had every reason to look away. He didn't. He looked around. He saw no one. And he killed the Egyptian and buried him in the sand. The next day he went out again. 2 Hebrews were fighting. He tried to stop them. One turned and said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" They knew. When Pharaoh heard, he tried to kill Moses. The palace that had saved his life was now hunting him. Moses fled into the desert. With nothing, he walked until he reached Midian, a land on the border of Egypt, where the desert meets the Red Sea. He sat down by a well, alone, exhausted, a man with no country. Then 7 daughters of a priest named Reuel came to draw water for their father's flocks. Shepherds came and drove them away. As they always did, Moses stood up, the man who had just lost everything, who had no reason to fight anyone else's battle, stood up, drove the shepherds away, and drew water for the women himself. When the daughters returned home early, their father asked, "Why have you returned so soon today?" They said, "An Egyptian man rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock." An Egyptian, that is what they saw. A Hebrew raised in an African palace looked so thoroughly Egyptian that even strangers could not see what he truly was. Reuel said, "Where is he? Why did you leave him? Invite him to eat." Moses agreed to stay, and in time, Reuel gave Moses his daughter Zipporah, a Midianite woman. From the same bloodline as Abraham, from the same desert soil that had shaped the faith of a nation. Moses settled in Midian. He married Zipporah. They had a son. He named him Gershom, a Hebrew word meaning, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." Even in his happiest moment, the naming of his firstborn son, Moses could not escape what he felt inside, a man between 2 worlds, belonging fully to neither. The prince became a shepherd. The palace became the hillside. The throne became the desert floor. And 40 years passed, 40 years of a man the world had forgotten. But God had not forgotten him. One day, leading his flock to the far side of the wilderness, Moses came to Horeb, the mountain of God, and he saw something that made no sense. A bush was on fire, but it was not burning up. He stood and watched. Exodus 3:3. Moses thought, "I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up." He stepped closer, and God spoke, "Moses, Moses." "Here I am," Moses said. "Do not come any closer. Take off your sandals. The place where you are standing is holy ground. I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." Moses hid his face. He was afraid to look at God. And then God said, "I have seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers. I am concerned about their suffering, so I have come down to rescue them. And so I am sending you to Pharaoh, to bring my people out of Egypt." What happened next? 10 plagues, a confrontation with the most powerful man in Africa. That is part 2. Subscribe to African Animated so you don't miss it. The Bible happened in Africa. We're making sure the world finally sees it.